On the 29th day of the 12th month of the Tibetan calendar, a small procession of ritual masters, cymbal players, horn blowers, drummers, and a master of ceremonies walk under a canopy through the courtyard of Namgyal College in Dharamsala. A silver and jewel-encrusted human thigh bone is blown by the trumpet player. Following close behind are monks carrying wands of incense and a vase of sprinkled blessed water. Next, inside the shrine, dancers wearing heavy black hats and carrying shields and swords perform one of the most significant and beautiful dances known to Tibetan Buddhism. This is called the Black Hat Dance, and it is one of several sacred monastic dances, collectively known as cham, that are carried out by Tibetan Buddhist monks every year. The Black Hat Dance is symbolic of an historic incident dating back to 842 CE, where Lungpa Pelgi Dorje assassinated the oppressive Bon leader known as Long Dharma. As the story goes, Pelgi Dorje wore a black robe and a big black hat as he danced and lured Long Dharma out of his home only to kill him with an arrow shot straight to the eye. Pelgi Dorje was then able to escape persecution by turning his black robe inside out to reveal its white inner lining and continued on to the eastern district of Kham, where he returned to a meditative life with other Buddhist monks. Pelgi Dorje's seemingly vicious act was an example of bodhisattva, which is an action carried out for the benefit of all beings. This story demonstrates how the Black Hat Dance, as with all forms of Tibetan dance, represents an integral part of Tibet's rich history and own unique form of Buddhism. While cham dance clearly helps Tibetans to express their nation's culture, Buddhists assert that it has also played a key role in the actual unfolding of many historic events. One such event is the building of Samye, the first Tibetan Buddhist monastery. According to legend, the building of Samye in 765 CE gave rise to the first performance of cham called the Varakilaya dance by the well-known Buddhist tantric adept Padmasambhava. When the magical excesses of the Bon shamans prevented the Buddhist monastery from being built, King Trisong Detsen called upon Padmasambhava to help in their defeat and the ensuing spread of Buddhism as Tibet's new state religion. In the words of the fifth Dalai Lama, the great religious master Padmasambhava performed this dance in order to prepare the ground for Samye Monastery and to pacify the malice of the La, local mountain god spirits, and Srin, malevolent spirits, in order to create the most perfect conditions. Monuments called stupas that honor the ritual Kilya daggers were constructed at the key points of the monastery in order to prevent evil forces from entering the holy grounds and as a memorial to the very first Varakilaya dance. With each performance of the Varakilaya dance, Tibetan monks re-invoke the protective power of Padmasambhava. As with every cham dance, the Varakilaya operates on two levels, the upper action and the lower action. The upper action is designed to achieve enlightenment, while the lower action is designed to destroy evil forces and barriers. Furthermore, the dance transforms impurity to purity, as consciousness is believed to enter as a demon and exit as a deity. Often held by the dancers are a skull and scarf that are tied together onto the Varakilaya ritual dagger known as a purba. While the skull, also called the banda, represents impermanence, the scarf spreads the action quality of compassion. The qualities of body, speech, and mind are embodied by the purba, and its three blades symbolize passion, aggression, and ignorance. To get rid of negativities, a roasted barley flour cake painted red with sculpted butter ornaments, called a torma, is offered as a substitute for the animal sacrifices of older dance rituals. The Varakilaya dance consists of 7 stages and traditionally was performed by groupings of either 13, 17, 21, or 23 monks that would each usually play their own drum. Since the first performance of cham by Padmasambhava and the establishment of the Samye Monastery, the Vajrayana, or Tantric path of Tibetan Buddhism, has been considered one of the most important lines of Tibetan Buddhist wisdom. Vajrayana is considered to be a valid means of attaining enlightenment. It is also known for its ability to break down barriers to the practice of Dharma and to expose its practitioners to the world of endless compassion. The other significant theme of Tibetan Buddhist wisdom that emerged after the building of Samye was that of the monastic tradition. When 3,000 men came from all over Tibet to become monks at Samye, only 300 were accepted. Then, when Padmasambhava began the translation of sacred texts, he picked only 108 monks to help in this massive task. Clearly, the monastic path was one of profound exclusivity. While the monastic and the Vajrayana paths differ in many ways, aspects of both traditions were kept alive as they eventually evolved into the 4 modern schools of Tibetan Buddhism: Nyingma, Sakya, Kagyu, and Gelug. These 4 schools all use cham in their rituals, and sacred dance as part of the study of the larger system within Buddhist tantric practices. According to the fifth Dalai Lama, the Nyingma school was the first to establish cham within Tibet, and many of their different dances are derived from visionary dreaming. The choreography of several tantric dances can be traced as far back as Padmasambhava, who had dreams of dances, remembered them, and passed this knowledge down through generations. This method of choreography is still widely used to this day. When discussing dances derived from dreaming, it is important to understand the difference between visionary dreams, which are a legitimate source of choreography, and imagination or daydreaming, which are not. According to the fifth Dalai Lama, explanations for how to distinguish between these two states of mind can be found in the restricted or secret teachings of Tibetan Buddhism. As the different religious schools evolved and divisions within each school and monastery emerged, variations of the many cham dances developed. For example, particular monasteries sometimes focus on a specific deity or interpretation of an ancient dance text. There are also several different types of dances within cham. Some chams reenact historical events or serve as empowerments of local guardian deities, while others function as a special commemorative dance. Furthermore, cham dances also exist outside of Tibet in centers throughout the Himalayan region. Although the large amount of diversity that surrounds cham dance makes it somewhat difficult to study, it is possible to explore the world of Tibetan sacred dance by examining a few essential elements shared by all cham dances. In preparation for any cham dance, one must take into account several key factors that will influence the performance. For instance, all cham dances are performed in accordance with the calendar and the phases of the moon. Furthermore, a sponsor's financial donations or the wealth of a monastery can greatly influence when and how a dance is carried out. Other factors that often affect a performance include how well trained the dancers are, the status of the village, and whether the performance is for merit of a donor or an obligation to the village. In all cham performances, the dancers will only be those monks who have been initiated properly. These initiations are referred to as abhisheka, which translates literally into to sprinkle, and they allow the monks to practice for the sake of all sentient beings. An abhisheka is an empowerment where sacred substances are sprinkled onto one's head, and different empowerments are performed according to the different levels of spiritual accomplishment. In addition to being properly initiated, cham dancers must also be thoroughly instructed before the performance can take place. Learning many of the dances can be a long and rigorous process. For example, to learn just one part of the Kala Chakra dance, it takes 3 years. Prior to the communist occupation of Tibet, it was common for monks to be taught many different styles and undergo dance examinations. At Namgyal Monastery, every year the monks had to perform certain sections of a dance from memory before the Tibetan New Year. In all cham performances, there are 3 main phases: the introduction and preparation phase, the generation and fulfillment phase, and the conclusion. During the introduction and after the dance's conclusion, the dancers meditate and wish to benefit all sentient beings. When the dance is being set up, the line between meditation and post-meditation is indistinguishable, and the heart becomes more compassionate. This is important because if the dancers do not meditate for the good of others, then the dance will be meaningless and not succeed as a transformative meditative process. Visualizations of deities called yidams concentrate and stabilize the mind in the early stages of cham. Yidams are considered to be aspects of the Enlightened One and often represent positive qualities such as divine pride, clarity, emptiness, and meditation. Following the invocation of the yidam and a number of other ritual processes involving everything from the offering of a barley beer called chang to the outlining of dance circles on the floor, the dancers circle around to create a sacred mandala. This locks the boundaries against negative energy and empowers the consecrated space. At the end of the dance, a feast is prepared and various protectors are invited, with peaceful ones seated on the right, wrathful ones seated on the left, and invisible Buddhas and Bodhisattvas seated in the middle. Traditional Tibetan cham dance is much more than the colorful theatrical display it is often misinterpreted as. It is an integral and sacred facet of the Tibetan Buddhist tradition and is part of a larger system of tantric practices done for spiritual purposes. Cham dances also have many functions closely aligned with shamanistic practices, which may include the eradication of disease, the ridding of negativity from a particular village, or the promotion of bountiful harvests. Moreover, cham dances are performed for the good of all sentient beings, and the merit gained by dancers through initiation is something that benefits their entire community. Nevertheless, these extremely ritualistic spiritual practices are often presented as cultural entertainment, and this has created controversy among many Tibetan Buddhists. While some feel that secret teachings should not be turned into a theatrical spectacle, the 14th Dalai Lama has tried to ease their worries by taking the point of view that these ceremonies can have a great benefit for the whole of society. As stated in the Dalai Lama's 1973 address to Gyuto Tantric monks, the secret interior path and its processes are things which the ordinary eye cannot perceive. What is seen outside is totally different. Based on their inner achievement, the yogis can unfold energies which can serve the benefit of the entire country, such as in ceremonies which consecrate images and icons, exorcise negative forces, prevent natural disasters and epidemics, and uplift the spirit of the times. In other words, while those of us outside of the Tibetan Buddhist culture may be forced to appreciate sacred tantric dance in a far different way than it was intended for, this does not mean we have nothing to gain from learning about these time-honored traditions.